All right. Well, I see that there's still some people joining, and we have several on right now. So hello to everyone. Thank you for being here today for the 5th in Golden Shovel series, Get Ahead of the Curve, the webinar series. My name is Lori Creighton, and I'm your moderator today. And before I introduce our presenter, I want to make sure that you know that we'd like this to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to type in your questions as a chat as we go along. And we're also going to have a couple of polls for you to participate in. Additionally, this webinar is going to be recorded, and we will send you an email with the recording so that you can watch it at a later time. If you want to share it with your colleagues, you're certainly welcome to do that. And now I'd like to introduce our presenter. Erin Brossois is the CEO of Golden Shovel Agency. Erin has been playing a lead role in creating the PlaceVR division of the agency. And although he's going to be the first one to tell you that it's been a team effort, PlaceVR really is kind of his baby. Erin and the Golden Shovel team have been motivated these past few years by a conviction that 360-degree video and virtual reality is the innovation that economic developers need to increase their success. And now that we're living in a world that's just really been smacked by a global pandemic, the time truly has come for this idea to take off. So sit back, hope you have your coffee or your water next to you ready. Just relax as you take the next 20 minutes with Erin while he introduces you to the economic development tactic that has the power to remove barriers of time and distance and play a key role in getting your community on the road to COVID-19 recovery. Erin.
Thank you so much, Lori. Looking forward to being here today. We have been on, this is our fourth presentation of the Getting Ahead of the Curve. And if you have caught the last three, they were all done by Ron Krisha, who did an excellent job. And when they decided to do the one on virtual reality, they called me in, and I'm looking forward to sharing you today with what we're up to and the promise of this technology in such interesting times. Today, there's going to be a couple short polls as we go along, so stay present so you can vote on those, and then also be showing a very short video clip to give you a little sense of what this virtual reality is like. Lastly, I'll end up talking a little bit about what's going to be happening in the future and what we're expecting to see from our own research. But a little bit is why Golden Shovel? Why are we the ones talking about how to get ahead of the curve after the coronavirus calms down? And what are we going to do to plan? And what is the new economic development toolkit going to look like? And why Golden Shovel? And one of the reasons we have over 10 years of experience. Our company just had our 10-year anniversary. We're working presently with over 160 communities. Those are all groups that we've been actively working on, whether it's for web development, marketing strategy, all around economic development is our sole focus. And we have just an amazing team of professionals. I know some of the people on the webinar today might have met some of our team and know them, but they're wonderful people, and they're here to help you guys. So we've been working so diligently over the last few weeks, making sure that we can give as much support as possible to the economic developers who are truly being called to task. But today, we're going to be looking at what's coming up next and how is the new economic development role going to be shifting and what kind of technologies, and particularly around virtual reality. Now, this might be what you're thinking when you think virtual reality. Virtual reality has actually been around for a very long time. It first came out with a whole variety of different versions, whether it's inside a giant room full of videos. There's this device this guy is wearing. I don't know how many of you might have had, I wish I had a poll for how many people had the 1989 Cyberface. This is a museum relic from the Silicon Valley virtual reality, where the SDVR plans, that whole group, they have a whole museum full of virtual reality and first edition headsets. And so the ideas come for a long time, but really the technologies all come together to make it really feasible only in the last few years. Now, this is an interesting story. This is the very first time we ever showed virtual reality to the economic development industry. This is in Toronto at IEDC 2017. Many of you might have been there. And at the time when we started to look at virtual reality as a solution for economic development, there were a couple options. One is you either had a giant headset like this, which was, this is a PlayStation 4 wired up inside a booth at the conference. As you can see, it's got a lot of blinking, glowing blue lights on it. It looked a little bit like Tron. That was the best option that we had because it had enough resolution, but it was just a mess to carry around. You had to have a whole briefcase size thing. You're hauling it in just to get it all set up. The other option you had at this time was cell phones, which could fit into little headsets where you could stick them inside and look through them. And the problem was, let's just say there were a lot of problems. Technical problems as there were cell phones. And, you get a text while you're trying to look at something, or the power would run out, or you had to touch something on the screen but couldn't because it was in the headset. And so that was when we started. But the time that we really knew that we had something, this is Greg Wassmansdorf. He was giving us an advisory on the very first familiarization tour that we had made in Apex up in it's a 10-county region in northeastern Minnesota. And we brought it here, and this is the first time he actually got to see what he had been advising on. He was trying it on, and after watching the familiarization tour that we did, he stopped, and he took off the headset, and he says, "I feel like I've been there." And that's when we knew that this was a special type of technology and something that was really going to be interesting for economic developers across the world. So this is what the headsets look today. And a big difference is instead of having a briefcase and a computer and a giant cable, the Oculus Go is an all-inclusive headset. So for just over $150, you can get a small headset. You can put wraps on them so that they have, give you an example, one of these guys. You actually can put your own brand of your organization on it, and it doesn't have to plug into a computer. It doesn't have to plug into anything. It's completely self-standing. So finally, the economic developers can toss it in their bag and bring their sites, their FAM tours and stuff with them when they travel, or they can use these from afar to have virtual meetings, and I'll be talking a little bit about that today. I think this would be a really good time to ask, to get a sense of, take a poll. If everybody wants to take a look at their screens. Let's see, how am I gonna start this poll?
Do you want me to launch it?
Sure, that'd be great.
All right, I'm going to launch the first question. So the first question is, have you ever used virtual reality goggles? And I see some answers coming in. They're still coming in. And it looks like about 61% people are saying yes, they've used them once or twice, and 11% have used them many times, and 28% say no, and we have 0 that are at the point where they don't even know where virtual reality goggles is, so that's very good. All right.
That's fantastic. Well, it's nice to see that so many people have had a chance to try it. One of the things I like to say is you'll never forget the first time that you try virtual reality. It's a little bit like riding a bike. It tricks your brain. And really, that's where the magic of this virtual reality comes into play. It's not just virtual reality itself. It's also the 360-degree spherical video. Now, let me talk about that for a second. So 360 spherical degree video is like having a sphere with video all around it, like you're inside a video bubble, and you're standing in the middle looking around it like this. So if I look up, I see up. If I look left, I see left. And, I'm going to stop this poll. It keeps popping up here. And then the virtual reality itself is the ability to go into the headset and be somewhere that you are not. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But the spherical video has a way of tricking your brain when it's fully immersive. When your brain can't see anything but the video, and you see somebody walk by, let's say you look to the left and hear somebody walking along, and you look to the right and they walk by, your brain says, oh, you're there, you're visiting. And it has the ability to retain up to 75% more information than with other mediums. And the reason that works is because when you're in a new location or a new place, your brain literally opens up new receptors in your brain that takes in more information, because it doesn't know, like when you're traveling somewhere, what a risk is or what the opportunities are. And so it gets into kind of the fight and flight mode, and it just goes into hyper awareness. And what that does is takes in more information. And so what's exciting about this is you not only can bring your properties to somebody and show them what it's like to be there, but they get the experience of feeling like it's like they're standing there. It can trick your brain into thinking you're there. Now, what we've been doing with them is focusing on a handful of different types of tours for economic development groups to use. One of them is the familiarization tours that you're going to be familiar with. Well, those are looking like are a lot of like what type of businesses are a good fit for the region, followed by what's the workforce like, the universities and the education programs, what's it going to be like for the neighborhoods of where people are going to live, and then it goes as far as looking at all of the outdoor recreation. What are the things, the nightlife? Are there some really cool events and festivals that make a place really unique? Trying to capture all of those spots. And the average familiarization tour for us can hit up to as many as 30 locations. Then the second thing we've been doing is site tours, and that's like the familiarization tours. In fact, oftentimes they get made in a duplicate because a lot of the familiarization tour footage is surrounding the site tour, so to say. But what's amazing about those, you can show an actual site, you can put in graphics and data, including the ability to add in actual visions of what could be developed there. And I'll be sharing some of that with you today. But being able to do full site tours, they're a little bit shorter than the familiarization tours and carry quite a bit more data. Workforce attractions and natural fit, that's certainly been an issue, and it's about to be a lot larger one, I believe, after this virus settles down. And this allows you to share with somebody, a potential worker, what it's like to work in a job at your particular business, what it's like to live in your community. And those tend to go two different ways. One is from the business perspective, saying, hey, look, check out this job. Here's your coworkers. This is what our environment's like, which is super useful, especially if you have a high-risk environment, to be able to bring something like that to a trade show. The second is looking at it from a worker's perspective, where they can share, this is what was great about my life, living here in this community, it's why I'm thriving, it's why I love my job, and then use that to attract others like them. And then tourism, of course, is a natural fit for attracting visitors. Now, I'm talking so much about the headsets because that's where I believe the magic is. But when you do a 360 video and VR project, there's actually a handful of assets that get used to improve your current actions all across the board. And that includes being able to put a virtual reality video onto your website so that someone can pull it up. The only difference is, instead of just sitting there and watching it, you use your mouse cursor to scroll it back and forth, and you can look around as the video is playing. That's also a similar approach with tablets, phones. You can pull them up and use the gyro on that, so that when you turn the tablet or turn the phone, it actually turns and looks at the direction of the video. Also, the 360 video itself, we have the capacity to pull out standard video out of it. So if there's something specific out of a giant spherical video, you can always pull out clips and use them that way also. So there's all sorts of different assets that come out from a VR project. And over on the right is a good example of where it's been used. This is York County had brought this in to show to a site consultant at a trade show. They were at a food show, food and ag, and you can see they're just taking a look at what York County looks like from afar. Now, this technology has just been growing super rapidly. And when we started about 2 years ago, this was our camera, which is pretty exciting. It's 6 GoPros combined into a giant head. It was called the GoPro Omni, cost about $5,000. And today, on the right, you'll see a GoPro one of the newer GoPro Fusion cameras, which costs under $1,000, and takes, instead of having to put together 6 videos together into a sphere, it does it all at once. You can see how quickly the hardware is changing. Over on the left is Greg, and Greg Kolbjornsson is our executive producer for PlaceVR, and there he is on top of a water tower, which was the most dangerous shot he said he ever made. Here's on location up in Oregon Trail Electric in Eastern Oregon. That is Greg in the middle, and Warren is on our team over on the left. That's Leah Gettle in the middle, where she's with Oregon Trail Electric, shooting some videos up there. This is at the IEDC conference. I think Andrew Phillips is over on the left, Jennifer Jabinski on the right. They're both from LinkedIn. After the IEDC conference this year, Andrew left with the #1 takeaway from the conference was how exciting virtual reality was, and he put a nice post on LinkedIn for us. This is Ron Krisha, and he's showing this to the state government in Minnesota. Ron Krisha works at the House of Representatives in Minnesota, and is our COO if you've been listening to the past webinars. And this here is Henry from WebTech. He brought the goggles to the annual investment meeting. And if you, this is in Dubai, and if you look in really close and zoom in, we're happy to see that the VR goggles are able to make it. This technology right now, especially under the current circumstances, being implemented all over the world. And this is just from a couple weeks before lockdown at the NET conference in Florida, talking to 800 some utilities about the power of virtual reality. So this has been a very exciting topic for I think all economic development organizations right now, and that's just had jet fuel put on it going forward. Now, one of the things that I mentioned is possible to do with the sites is we can put in 3D models into a spherical video to create the feeling of actually being there, even though it doesn't exist yet. It's like an augmented reality component inside of virtual reality video. And right here, you're looking at a perfectly beautiful site available in Ohio, but wouldn't it be more interesting to see what it looks like with that building on it? And I'm going to do my best to show a little clip of this in action. Here's another example. In York County, there was a 34-acre industrial site where that farm field turns into a full functioning facility. And this engineering model came straight from the engineering firm into here. We were able to animate trains, add additional landscaping, and the whole works to make that cornfield turn into someplace that may exist someday. I'm going to look around, see different sides of it. And so another thing that we've been working on more recently is integrating things like the Matterport technologies. So for groups with existing facilities, I just showed you one of where there was no facility, and we can make that look like it's there. But for existing facilities, we can actually go in, shoot the entire facility, make it into a 3D model, and turn it into it's almost what's called a dollhouse look. So you can see the entire facility shot by the camera. But you can actually put on VR goggles and walk through this building as if you were there. And we incorporate this technology for showing off the existing facilities, and we can do the video technology for giving the feeling of being there. And then we can put in the 3D models to show off a vision that doesn't exist yet. All of that using that trick of the brain to feel like you're there and it's real. Now, one of the things that we've been focusing on is, especially in light of the virus, is how do you communicate with people without doing the travel? Because traveling is the most expensive, not just in money and resources, but in time. And it certainly now is going to increase the risk. We don't know what travel is going to look like over the next year. And so this is a really, really interesting idea that has kind of found its time. What we built is a PlaceVR meeting app. And so right now, it puts a conference table right in the middle of wherever you want. So in this case, we're in Northeast Kentucky, downtown, sitting at a conference table. Those two avatars are economic developers. And you can turn your head. It all is synced with the goggles. When you talk, it's in 3D sound. So if I'm talking to the person over there on the right, that person feels like I'm talking in their left ear. and it really feels the sense of presence. Believe it or not, much more than a video conference as of this nature. And the host of the meetings can bring their guests into their tours. And so in this case, this is a site tour from Great River Energy. We're in the St. Cloud area of Minnesota. They're checking out the winter scene of recreation. Here's another shot of a site, but you're bringing people into these places. I'm going to show you guys as best I can a video. So right now, first thing that's happening is we're just turning around. I'm looking up and down in a circle. You can get a little sense of what this looks like. This video was shot directly out of a VR headset. One of the things you can do, we're experimenting with drones right now, different ways of showing construction. Talked about being able to see new construction, and there's an example of that building popping up on a piece of land. And what's so crazy about that is you look down, because it's spherical video, so the video shoots down too, and you see grass, and then suddenly there's pavement underneath your feet. But we can also go back to places and shoot different seasons, like in that case. You might have summer activities, but you also have winter activities, and we can combine those in unique ways to give the whole picture. Major events, we often come back to communities to shoot a major event because it's such a part of the soul of a culture in some communities. This is in Northeast Wyoming. Now here's a little example of this app in action. So we had dialed up into the app. Once again, right now we're in Eastern Kentucky. That could be any background. You could have somebody sitting right in the middle of the site you're talking about. You could have them sitting in your office if that's your preference. But there's the conference table itself can sit anywhere, and we can bring up to 3 participants. And then I can go in there and play the videos since I'm hosting the meeting in this case. And here's an example of that. York County building just popping up. And there's my guests, they're looking around. Anywhere they look, they feel like they're just standing there and we're talking about it. You notice the conference table just disappeared. And now we're on a tour. This was one of the very first site selection economic development meetings that ever happened. Over on the left in the 50s cop look is Monty Turner. He's checking out one of the major facilities up in the Apex region. On the right is Brian Hansen and Tom Lambrecht, and they're showing off the region. So, okay, that's the. I know it gets a little sketchy sometimes playing videos over Zoom, but I hope you were able to just get a teeny little glimpse of what that looked like. Okay. Oh, bear with me, folks. I think I just lost my presentation. Lori, did you want to run the second poll as long as I'm reloading up my presentation?
Absolutely. All right. Poll number 2. What most represents your opinion of 360-degree video and virtual reality for economic development? Got a couple of answers coming in. Looks like got some answers for each one. Waiting for some more people.
Yep, this is just what we need. I'm convinced, but I'll never get the support to make it fly. Out of our league. Common first impression. Not sure. That's an okay place to be too.
Yep. Last chance to put in your answer. And I'm going to wait for, all right, we did 1 minute. And the poll, and I'll share the results. So you can see most people on this poll have pretty positive attitudes about VR for economic development. So,
yep, great.
All right.
Thanks for participating on the poll.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to talk now. So I've talked about the videos, how they're used, the types of videos we've been making, talk a little bit about the virtual app. One of the questions often is, how do you use a virtual app when everybody does not necessarily have the headsets? And one of the ways that we've been getting around that is certainly all of our clients have headsets of their own. They usually have their wraps on them and make them look nice. They bring those headsets to their meetings, certainly anytime they're in an in-person setting. But when they want to meet with site consultants, for example, when we had the meeting with Monty Turner, what we've done, Golden Shovel, PlaceVR, we've taken and created a whole fleet of headsets that are available to be sent out for meetings. So if you have somebody you'd like to connect with, you can certainly get them a headset. It'll be all ready to go. Take away the anything technically related. We make it as easy to use as possible, but you never know. And so we assist in making sure that those meetings are facilitated. In some cases, we can even give support on meeting, so to say. Otherwise, the economic development groups themselves, if you've got multiple headsets, you certainly can send them to the people you would like to meet with. And then we just send a UPS sticker back and they send them back. And I just had wonderful experiences without having to do any travel at all. Okay, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the future and get on to some questions. So this is some of the things I've been seeing out here. I live in Santa Cruz. I'm about an hour south of San Francisco. And that's given me a little bit of access to the latest technologies around virtual reality. One of the things is Oculus is based out of here, and so we're able to attend some of these conferences. I'm certain I was the only economic developer at the entire Oculus Connect 6 conference, and being able to go there and see exactly what they were coming out with. In fact, at the time, they debuted the Oculus Quest. This is the next level headset. It's also wireless, but gives you 2-hand controls, and you can walk through things in 6 degrees of freedom instead of 3 degrees of freedom. Really exciting stuff. We're already exploring ways that how we can use it, and it's been a big boost to the industry as far as getting virtual reality picked up by the mainstream. What's amazing about those avatars is that these guys, they're going to look like you. Right now, I know they look a little bit like a video game. They got that kind of that look to it, and that's technology working with bandwidth restrictions. But this is going to change dramatically and very, very fast. You're going to see within a year, year and a half, these avatars representing us. Hopefully, slightly better versions of us. And here you can see, this is from a Facebook, an article about how Facebook is talking about these real life avatars. And if you look behind this picture, you see all those cameras. There's 150 cameras shooting that person, making them into an avatar. To see what that kind of looks like in real life, that gentleman in the middle there with his arms up standing next to Bugs Bunny and the rock guitar is Carl Krantz, and he's the head of the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Meetup. And here's a picture of him standing next to himself in his own avatar. Those 150 cameras, they're just amazing. And on a screen this size, it's hard to tell who's who. There's me over on the right side. I'm demoing the Infinideck, a omnidirectional treadmill, and I'm walking through a site in VR. This site happens to be a dungeon, but you can stretch your imagination to our industry. And ultimately here at the end of the day, we're going to save a ton of time, because the site consultants, especially the site consultants, they're on the road so much. And it gets to a point where they've shared with us that if you have a smaller city, like a rural community or a second tier city even, it can be really, really hard to get there. You can't necessarily even pay them to do a fam tour. And if you can't get somebody to come visit your place physically, they're certainly not going to move their business or their family. And so the idea here is that by using the virtual reality, we can do the second best thing. It's the second best way of feeling like you're visiting a place without actually being there. Then that's the best thing that a lot of people have to go on, because they're not getting people there. We've done work in Haiti because as a third world country, it's got trouble bringing people to come visit. So how do you show them the great things that are happening? It's the exact same thing that's happening with rural communities. And also with budget restrictions, travel restrictions now, and certainly across the world, the ability to cut down on emissions has all been a massive reasoning behind the uses of virtual reality. And so with that, I'm going to wrap it up here for questions, but I want to let you guys know and just make an introduction to a brand new ebook. We're technically launching it on Monday. It is available on our website right now. And this is in a very extensive ebook on why. You can find it on our website. Here's our website. Check out placevr.net. And it'll give you a little teaser of it. It's called Small Town Big Tech, 5 Reasons Why Rural Economic Development Leaders Are Early Adopters of 360-degree video and virtual reality. And I underline rural economic development leaders. This is the early adopters of this technology was not New York City. It was not these massive metros. It was actually the groups that are having the hardest, toughest time either stretching out their budgets or getting people to come visit. And I wanted to show just a little teaser. This is not the whole book, my little teaser version, but introduce a handful of people that have been doing virtual reality. They're clients of ours and different reasons why they did. You have Brian Hansen from the Apex region. I mentioned he did the very first video, as far as we know, for economic development ever. And one of his focuses was really just getting ahead of the competition with innovation, showing something new. He was able to show it to a couple of site consultants. One you can see in this quote here, one from Chicago and one from San Francisco. And they were sitting there looking at that saying, why is this technology coming out of Duluth? All innovation happens on the fringe. It always happens on the edge. Innovation does not happen in doing the same stuff that everyone else is doing. It's when you're trying something new that true innovation comes up. Some couple shots from their area. It's absolutely gorgeous region. I got Tom Lambrick from Great River Energy. He had 2 different data center sites that he made virtual reality tours for in Minnesota also. And his big thing was if you can't get a site selector to visit and you want to get more than 0 site visits, here's an option for you. And he certainly takes the tours into the conferences he's been attending. We've sent out photos. He's been engaged in showing some of his sites to site consultants virtually. Some nice shots, 2 different sites that we did. The third one, this is Eric Collins. He's from Montgomery County, which includes Dayton, Ohio, and the surrounding region. And one of the things that he noted is your community looks its best every single day. Can really show it. It's kind of cool because it's like curating a museum of your own community and you're showing it in its best way. So even if you have somebody, if you say do a fam tour and you bring your 3 site consultants in and you're going to wine and dine them and show them around, and you better hope the weather's pretty good. In virtual reality, the weather's always good. And you can get to places that you can't even bring people. Like you can't bring your 3 site consultants to stand behind a pitcher on the mound of a game. You probably don't want to put all 3 of them in that canoe to show what it's like to cruise down the river. So there's some really cool things, perspectives from on stage, and being able to show things that are perhaps a little dangerous to bring people to, but are really important to the economy and to the jobs in the area. So just really impressed with what Montgomery County had made. Lisa Hurley, she's from York County Development Corporation. It's a rural community in Nebraska. She focused on, she recognized that it was going to cost something. I mean, virtual reality isn't free. It does require resources. And she talks about in this ebook, her process of how they went about getting the funding and the interesting conversations that came up from doing it and the outreach and the exposure that the Economic Development Organization got as they raised funding from the community partners. And so that's a great story. You'll have to check that out. She did a whole series of videos, fam tours. There was a university recruitment video. We did a workforce attraction video, working on the York County industrial site, which had that 3D building popping onto it. That's brand new. So you can check those out for sure. And then lastly, we did some work with Oregon Trail Electric Cooperative, and I mentioned there's Leah Gettle over on the right. She works with Les Penning, the CEO of OTech, and they just had an amazing experience doing virtual reality as a community engagement piece, especially as an electrical cooperative. She got an opportunity to go tell people why they're engaged in economic development. It is such new technology, especially in rural communities, that they'll try, and it just opens up questions. People are amazed. They have questions about who you are, why are you doing this virtual reality? And it's spurred on projects all across the region, other types of projects, including, here, I see the top left and the bottom left photo are from their FAM tour. The top right tour ended up being a safety video that we ended up creating for first responders, so they know how to handle an accident if there's a power line lying on top of the car. It turned out really great. A lot of graphics on it, and it included a helicopter life flight group and the fire department and the police department, and they installed 6 power lines just to shoot the video. It was about as Hollywood production as been able to do in VR. And the bottom right is an ongoing project that's been delayed a little bit, but we were down in Guatemala. The Oregon electric cooperatives are sending down linemen to Guatemala to connect power to 60-some houses in a rural community down there. We've already been down there to shoot the before footage, and had everything been a little less virusy, we would all be there right now, but that's going to get pushed out till later in the year. So we'll be excited to show you later what it looks the before and after. One of those things about feeling like you're there is it creates empathy in people, and we just can't wait to capture that shot when you're sitting inside a dark house and seeing that light flip on for the first time and catching the expressions on people's faces, and really looking forward to bringing that humanitarian effort across the table. So, okay, thank you. Why don't I just open it back up for any questions for the remaining time that we have?
Yeah, we did have some questions come in, Aaron. So the first one is, have any clients experienced any unexpected outcomes from using their videos?
Sure. As far as I'd say there's a few unexpected outcomes. Like when you're first making the video, you're thinking down your own path. You're like, okay, I'm going to be given this FAM tour. How am I going to impress the site consultant? How am I going to show this business prospect when I go to the air show? What's it going to be like? Or now I'm going to do my FAM tours this way since I haven't had as much success with them in person or can't do them in person. That's the stuff that you're kind of planning for. The unexpected stuff is what happens inside your own community. So when you suddenly share, hey, look at, we're the economic development organization, and they're like, great, what do you do again? They're like, well, we promote the city, we create jobs, and here, look at this. This is what we're doing for the community, and they see their own community in a FAM tour. It just brings a lot of attention to the economic development group. It's the people that see it for the first time never forget the first time they see it, like I mentioned. There's just a lot of side benefits to it.
Okay, great. We did have another question come in. What did you mean by degrees of freedom?
So 3 degrees of freedom is you're standing in one spot and you can look up, down, left, right. Basically, you've got a full X, Y, Z axis to look around. That's 3 degrees of freedom. The 6 degrees of freedom gives you all of the ability to look around, but you can also move functionally. You can walk forward, you can walk back. If I take 10 steps forward, I move 10 steps forward in the VR application. And so by design, a spherical video is 3 degrees of freedom because you have only, you're looking around, you have three degrees to be able to look around. The 6 degrees of freedom is where the virtual reality takes a whole nother level. Things like in the Matterport tools, there's inside the VR app, you can set up those types of freedoms. It really lays out the future for being able to walk through something. With those Oculus Quests, you can choose how much space you want to interact with, everywhere down from a 3-foot circle to a half a tennis court. So you literally could set up a half a tennis court area and then walk somebody through a site that you're not even at and walk around on it as if you were there from afar. Be a way to convert like a local gym into a visit to a site somewhere else.
Okay, great. Thanks, Aaron. And then the last question I have here is, what is the shelf life of this technology? Is it going to be outdated in 5 years?
It's a really good question. And you know, the inherent risk of pioneering virtual reality is the fact that we don't know exactly how fast things are going to change. Our experience so far is that they change really fast. And so here's a really good reason why we started focusing on the spherical videos, is because the spherical video itself is a piece of content for virtual reality. Spherical video isn't virtual reality on its own, it's a video that's shot in a sphere. And so that content can be used a whole variety of ways. So you can put it on YouTube, you can put it on Facebook, we can use the Vimeo channels to be able to share that, where people can go and get those. There's over 1 million spherical videos on YouTube right now. So if you have a VR headset, you can go find topics of all sorts to go see, as well as having that, I say the spherical video footage right now, we shoot it at 5.2K, which means that we're already beyond what the mainstream headsets are offering. I believe that within a year and a half, we'll see the first 8K headsets come out. They're going to start moving a little bit faster, but the videos that we're shooting probably have a 2 to 5 year lifespan before you'd want to update them. With that said, what we've been doing is we'll go shoot a familiarization tour, come back in another season, or when there's another event, shoot fresh footage, combine it into a bigger familiarization tour, keep updating it basically. Or if a site gets sold, we can take that out of the video and update it. And the videos play on their own, but you can also, like in the case of a spherical or a VR meeting, you can actually pause the sound. You don't need to use the narration. You can give your tour in person. Or the way we've been doing it in the past meetings is they'll show the video, they'll use the narration, there'll be a little voiceover, and then they'll hit pause and then talk to the prospect about why that particular photo was shot and why it's relevant to them.
Okay. All right, we did have one more question come in. Does Golden Shovel work with local photographers skilled in 360 to create the videos?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we think all economic development groups should be doing this technology. Yes, we're pioneering it, but there's we want everyone to be exploring it. We think it's the future. The more groups that are doing this, whether they're doing it with us or doing it on their own, I think they're going to see the benefits. And we certainly can work with other videographers and bring our talented team to the table. So.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for participating today. We will send you an email within the next day that has the recording, and we'll also give you first chance to get the ebook that we are going to be launching on Monday. If any other questions arise after we get off of this webinar, feel free to reach out to Aaron. We'll have some contact number in the email. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.
Thanks, Lori. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.